But is the U.S. housing market, well, is it becoming a buyer's market? Well, from 2020 to 2022, it was definitely a seller's market, and people could ask pretty much whatever they wanted for their home. And if you didn't take it, well, guess what? There would be 10 people behind you that would take that home. Well, now things are changing back to where buyers can actually negotiate and sometimes even get a price below the asking price. Now, nationwide, about 62% of home buyers purchase their home under the listing price. And the discount of that under the list price was 8%. That was the largest discount since 2012.
That really shocked me because, again, during the post-COVID era, we'll call it that short time period, the list price was $1 million and that thing would go for 1.2 million.
I know.
It's just like, whoa.
And people see it sight unseen. It was crazy.
And you just had the bidding wars and they were gnarly where you'd have people out of the state, it seemed like. Yeah, I've never saw it. Yeah, I'll give you this. And it's like, what the heck? So again, things have, I don't think, gotten necessarily more inexpensive, obviously, but they're starting to normalize outside of the crazy times that we saw. And kind of speaking to that point, buyers are also obtaining concessions from sellers, which could be things like cash for closing costs or buying down the mortgage. We've talked about that before. If you get cash, don't buy down the mortgage at these interest rates. It many times is not the right thing. Could be depending on your situation, but many times I don't think the math checks out. Maybe check with a good financial planner like ours, Harrison Johnson, before you look at that. As recently as December, though, there were 600,000 more sellers than buyers, and that's the biggest gap going back to 2013. So again, we have 2012, 2013. I mean, we're talking about 13, 14 years that we've seen a housing market with some of these conditions. What is helping the housing market, though, is mortgage rates have declined a little bit, which has made homes somewhat more affordable for some buyers, along with the cool-off in prices that we have seen. And again, it's not like prices have declined substantially. In some areas they have, but I mean, you had a time period where home prices were going up 15, 20% in like a year, and now we're not having that. We're having a more normalized housing market.
And unfortunately, there's people that bought those houses at the peak thinking, oh, wow, I'm going to make all this money. And again, you never should buy high. It always hurts you, whether it's stocks, real estate, commodities. I mean, you have to realize what you're paying for something. But also, too, these are nationwide numbers. You may say, well, no, my house next door, they sold this and so forth. This is a nationwide number, an average. But the best place to buy a home currently is in Florida and Texas because new home construction has created a big supply of homes for sale. And again, higher supply, lower demand will lower the prices. It can really depend on the local market you're looking at, but if you're buying in West Palm Beach, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, or Miami, about 85% of home buyers paid under the original listing price. However, if you're buying a home in Newark, New Jersey, San Francisco, or San Jose, well, only 39% received a discount from the original list price. So understand where you live and the local market can make a big difference. But we look at nationwide because of that deals with the economy, investing, and everything else.
Yeah, and when you point out those ones that you're not getting the same type of, I'll call it, deal, it was also noted that those markets, no surprise here, had a low amount of new construction. And I hate to say it, but if you notice the locations of them, generally going to be more regulations. So, you look here in California, our regulatory costs in building a home is one reason that our expenses to buy a home is so much greater because it is so cost prohibitive with all the rules, the regulations, the difficulty and the speed of the process of building a home. So, I mean, it doesn't really surprise me that we're still seeing that difficulty there. And the thing I like to point out for people is there could be more to come if the supply increases. We've talked about this a lot. And then prices ease somewhat, as it would likely bring more buyers back into the market. Depending on where you're looking at buying, perhaps 2027 will be a great time to buy a home. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a slight decline in home prices year over year this year. I'm still not looking for a major collapse or anything. Obviously, the economy's too strong, consumers are too strong. Housing prices pull back. I think that'll then bring buyers back in. So you're going to have a floor on how much prices could actually decline.
And you said it'll bring buyers back in. You said decline or an increase?
If prices decline?
Decline.
Yeah, prices decline, then buyers would come back in, and then it create that floor in the market.
And what I think that'll also do is show people that want to sell their home, like, I guess it's the time to sell it. So people get tired of waiting. And again, 600,000 more, was it more buyers and sellers? No,
other way around.
More sellers and buyers. And that's so important because that means and people, especially you have this feeling back when the market was hot, you could sell your house in 10 days. Now you're going to wait 2 months, 3 months. Oh, I better cut the price. I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's going to be some people, the 600,000 surplus, that might decline as we look forward, because those people might be thinking it's like what we had before, and they're looking for a quick turn or a great profit. And if they don't get that number, they might not sell. But there are other people in that 600,000 that they need to sell. Maybe they can't afford it anymore. Maybe they want to downsize. Maybe they need to move for a different job and they can't handle 2 mortgages. I mean, there is going to need to be housing turnover to some degree.
Right.
It's of those 600,000, not all of them have the luxury of maybe not needing to sell.
Yeah, and it's just an important thing to look at. And again, be patient. That's what we're saying, 2027. You might get a great deal in 2026, but again, I would not be in a hurry. And I just still worry about interest rates because of all the debt. But these are things you have to kind of look at.